There is a rifle so famous that it has its own nickname, the gun that won the West. You've seen it 1,000 times in the hands of cowboys and outlaws and movie stars, the levers swinging down and snapping back, a shot cracking across the desert. It is maybe the most American object ever made. And almost everything you think you know about it is a story someone sold you. The man who built it never designed a gun in his life. He made dress shirts. The rifle that made him rich had already bankrupted 2 companies before he touched it. And the phrase, the gun that won the West, was invented by an advertising man in 1919, decades after the West was already gone. But here's the part that should stop you cold. The factory that made this legendary rifle, the brick fortress in New Haven, Connecticut that armed America across the frontier and through 2 world wars, that at its peak employed 21,000 people, is gone. Not struggling, not sold, gone. On March 31, 2006, New Haven made Winchester rifles. On April 1st, it didn't. And today, if you walk through those same brick walls, you won't find a single gun. You'll find luxury apartments with a swimming pool and a bocce court. This is the story of how America's rifle was born, how it conquered the imagination of the entire world, and how the factory behind it simply switched off after 150 years. And it begins not with a gunfighter, but with a businessman who saw an opportunity in something everyone else had given up on. His name was Oliver Fisher Winchester, and in the 1850s he was not in the gun business. He was one of the most successful shirt manufacturers in New Haven. He knew fabric, patterns, and profit margins. He knew almost nothing about firearms. But Oliver Winchester understood one thing better than any gunsmith alive. He understood opportunity. There was a company called Volcanic, built around a clever repeating rifle that could fire round after round without reloading. It was a beautiful idea. It was also a commercial disaster. The rifle didn't work well enough. The company ran out of money, and by 1856 it was insolvent. Most investors ran for the exits. Oliver Winchester did the opposite. He bought the wreckage. In 1857, he took the assets of that failed company and reorganized it into something new, the New Haven Arms Company. He had just bet his shirt fortune on a rifle that had already failed, and at first it looked like a mistake. What Winchester needed was a genius, and he found one, a quiet, brilliant mechanic named Benjamin Tyler Henry. Henry took the flawed design and transformed it. He perfected a powerful new cartridge and built it into a rifle that could hold 16 rounds and fire them almost as fast as a man could work the lever. In an age when soldiers fired one shot and then spent 30 seconds reloading, this was witchcraft. They called it the Henry rifle. Then came the Civil War, and the Henry earned a nickname that told you everything. Confederate soldiers, facing Union men who never seemed to stop shooting, called it the damned Yankee rifle you could load on Sunday and shoot all week. For the first time, the little New Haven company had something the whole country wanted. And that success created the first great betrayal. By 1866, Benjamin Henry believed he was the real reason the company was thriving, and that Oliver Winchester was getting rich off his genius. So while Winchester was away in Europe, Henry made his move.
He went to the Connecticut legislature and tried to have ownership of the entire company handed to him. Winchester found out, and he raced back across the Atlantic. He moved fast, outmaneuvered Henry, and seized control of the company he had built. Then he did something that erased his rival almost completely. He reorganized the whole enterprise under a single name, his own, the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. Benjamin Henry designed the rifle that saved the company, but it would carry another man's name forever. Now Winchester needed a gun to match his ambition, and in 1873 he got it. The Model 1873 was not the most powerful rifle of its day. Honestly, by modern standards, it wasn't even that impressive. It fired a modest cartridge and wasn't accurate at long range. But it did one thing better than almost anything else on Earth. It was reliable and it was fast. A man could put 15 shots downrange in under a minute, and it almost never jammed. On the frontier, where a jammed rifle meant death, that was everything. Cowboys carried it, ranchers carried it, homesteaders, lawmen, and outlaws carried it. Billy the Kid posed with one in the only photograph ever taken of him. Theodore Roosevelt hunted with one, and the little rifle from the noisy brick factory in Connecticut, built by men and women earning about $600 a year, working 11-hour days, became the most recognizable weapon in America. But here's the twist almost nobody knows.
That legendary phrase, "the gun that won the West," did not come from a cowboy or a historian. It came from a Winchester engineer named Edwin Pugsley, who wrote it in 1919 as a marketing slogan. Look closely and you'll notice something. He wrote it in the past tense. The West had already been won. In fact, it had been settled years before. The most famous fact about this rifle was, in a sense, an advertisement. A brilliant one. So brilliant that 100 years later, we still repeat it as history. That's the strange power of Winchester. The line between the gun and the legend was always a little blurry, and the company was very, very good at selling the legend. By the 1880s, Winchester found its second genius, and this one may have been the greatest firearms designer who ever lived. His name was John Moses Browning. For 2 decades, Browning fed Winchester a stream of designs that became legends in their own right. The lever actions of 1886, 1892, 1894, and 1895. The Model 94 alone would go on to sell for over a century. Winchester wasn't just making guns anymore, it was defining what an American rifle was. And then the world went to war, and the brick factory in New Haven became something much larger than a gun company. During the First World War, New Haven boomed. The factory needed to fill 12,000 machinist jobs almost overnight. The headline said everything was booming in the Elm City. Winchester turned out rifles for the American and British armies by the hundreds of thousands. But it was the Second World War that revealed the true scale of what this factory could do. When Franklin Roosevelt called on the American industry to become the arsenal of democracy, Winchester answered.
The New Haven Works produced the M1 Garand, the rifle General Patton called the greatest battle implement ever devised. And Winchester engineers helped design and build the M1 carbine, the light rifle carried by millions of American soldiers across Europe and the Pacific. To do it, the factory grew to a size almost impossible to imagine today, 21,000 workers. Winchester became the largest employer in New Haven, the beating heart of what people proudly called the munition state. And in the crush to produce enough guns, something else happened inside those walls. Desperate for labor, Winchester's managers began hiring African-American workers, many of them migrants from the South, over the objections of some. For thousands of black families, a steady Winchester paycheck became something rare and precious in mid-century America, a path to owning a home. Whole neighborhoods, like Newhallville, grew up around the factory gates. The rifle didn't just arm America, it built a community. This was the peak, and from a peak, there is only one direction. The problem was hiding inside Winchester's greatest strength. These guns were magnificent because they were built by skilled hands. Much of the work was done the old way, fitted and finished by craftsmen. That's what made a Winchester feel like a Winchester. But craftsmanship is expensive. And after the war, the cost of skilled American labor climbed year after year, while cheaper competitors crowded the market. In 1964, Winchester made a fateful decision. To cut costs, it redesigned its classic guns, replacing beautiful old methods with cheaper modern ones. The guns got less expensive to build. They also, in the eyes of many customers, got worse. Sales began to slide.
For the first time, the magic of the name wasn't enough. The workers felt the pressure too. The factory that had lifted so many families now became a place of conflict. There were strikes in 1969 and again at the end of the 70s. And it was that last strike in 1979 and 1980 that broke something for good. The parent company, Olin, had seen enough. The firearms business was barely profitable, tangled in labor disputes, and fighting a losing battle against cheaper guns. In 1981, Olin walked away from making Winchester rifles. It sold the New Haven factory to a group of employees who formed a new company with a name that told you that romance was over. Not Winchester, S&W Repeating Arms Company. The legendary name now belonged to the ammunition. The factory just made the guns under license. And the new company struggled from the start. S&W Repeating Arms had gone bankrupt, and the New Haven Works, the factory that had armed America for over a century, passed into the hands of a Belgian firm. The gun that won the American West was now owned across the Atlantic. For a while it held on. A famous name, a skeleton of its former self, still turning out Model 70s and Model 94s in the old brick buildings. But the numbers never worked. The factory that once roared with 21,000 workers had shrunk to a few hundred. And then, in January of 2006, the announcement came. After 140 years, the New Haven plant would close. The union men who had feared this day for years gathered and spoke of
a factory that could no longer make money doing the thing it had always done. The date was set for March 31, 2006. That day, the last Winchester rifle rolled out of New Haven. The final workers, 186 of them, walked out of the factory their fathers and grandfathers may have worked in. The great machines that had shaped steel into legends were switched off. Later, they were auctioned away. On March 31, 2006, New Haven made Winchester rifles. On April 1st, it didn't. 150 years of history ended not with an explosion, but with a lock clicking shut on a door. And here is the final, strange truth of Winchester. The name never actually died. You can still buy a brand new Winchester rifle today, but it won't come from New Haven. The lever actions are made under license in Japan. Other models are built in Belgium, in South Carolina, in Portugal. The Winchester ammunition business, kept by Olin all along, still thrives. The name won. The name always wins. It was the place that lost. Because the factory itself, the brick fortress in Newhallville where 21,000 people once built the guns that settled a frontier and won a war, sat abandoned for years. Broken glass, graffiti, pigeons in the rafters. Urban explorers climbed in through gaps in the fence to photograph the ghost of American industry. And then the developers came. Today, those same walls hold 160 apartments, Winchester lofts. There's a pool, a bocce court. Young professionals sleep in bedrooms with polished concrete floors, in a building where the gun that won the West was once born in an inferno of noise. A New Haven official said it plainly when the factory died. The city's past was guns, to fight wars and hunt animals.
Its future would be healing wounds and curing disease. Maybe that's progress. Maybe it's just change. But something was lost in those brick buildings that a swimming pool can't replace. The knowledge of how to do a hard thing beautifully, passed down through generations of hands, until one day there were no more hands to pass it to. The gun that won the West is still famous. Hollywood still loves it. Collectors still pay fortunes for it. Its silhouette is still instantly, unmistakably American. But the men and women who actually made it are gone. And the factory where it was born is a place to live now, quiet and clean, with almost nothing left to say that here, once, America armed itself. Except the name over the door, Winchester. It's still there. It's the only thing that is.